All right, so I think we're ready to get started. I am Judith Parker, the principal of Dr. Howard Fuller Collegiate Academy. I'm really happy that everyone came out tonight to this town hall to get an update on our response to COVID-19 and what this means for all of our children. I'd like to introduce who's here with us. Dr. Fuller is here. Hi, Dr. Fuller. Dr. Fuller is here. Miss Muse is here, our Director of Counseling and Alumni Engagement, and our Dean of Teaching and Learning, Mr. Smith. Of course, our technology marketing genius, Mr. Bill Atwell's also on deck. So glad everybody's here. Wanted to start with reviewing what our agenda is for the evening. Is the agenda going up? And so our agenda for this evening, we've got 4 things on our agenda. The first is to review our response to COVID-19. It's been a long month for all of us. Fortunately, we were ahead of the game a little bit, and we're going to talk about all of the things that we did that brought us to this moment. We will also talk about what learning at home looks like and how we've made the transition from learning at our school building to learning in our homes. We will have a question and answer session. At that time, we're going to review first the questions that we received when people registered for the meeting. Mr. Smith is going to read those questions and address those answers for us. And then if you have questions that you would like to ask, if you can type them in the chat box, we'll read those and discuss those in order. If you're calling from your phone and you don't have access to the chat box, after we've done reading all of the prepared questions, all the advanced questions, and then all of the questions that are typed in, we're going to ask you to take your turn at the mic, so to speak, and ask your question, and we will answer your question. Please listen to the previous questions. A lot of us have the same questions. We want to make sure that we save time by only answering each question once. If we don't answer it thoroughly enough, you can absolutely ask us to say more about what we're talking about. Finally, the one piece of really important business that we have to handle is our waiver discussion. The DPI has asked all schools if we're going to have students learn at home and if we will need to change the hours of instruction. They're asking us to submit a waiver request. A preliminary step before we can do that is having this town hall meeting. So by being here, you're able to contribute your voice into the discussion of whether or not we should waive our instructional hour requirement for the year so that we can have the learning happen at home and ensure that students graduate at the scheduled time and the semester ends at the scheduled time. So without any delay, I'd like to take us to our response to COVID-19. So as I said, the timeline of our response started March 9th when the CDC first recommended that schools begin to think about what would happen, what would schools do in the event there is a spread of the disease. And so that's when you received a survey from us asking about whether or not you had connectivity at home, whether or not your child had a device at home. We also began daily deep cleaning of the school. We were in the 2nd week by that time of daily deep cleaning. By March 12th, school districts across the country began emergency closures, which meant we weren't sure what that was going to look like in Wisconsin or Milwaukee specifically, so we came up with 3 scenarios. By April 4th, we thought we would close and come back by April 14th, but by between March 13th and March 17th, Governor Evers announced that the schools would be closed indefinitely. So we had to go with the long-term option. That triggered our deployment of Chromebooks to students. And anyone who wanted to borrow a Chromebook just needed to come up to the school to do so. And so we've handled that part of the response. Since that time, we have moved into online learning. Our closure plan has a single goal, and that is to engage in online learning that will satisfy all credit requirements so that students can be promoted by June 11th, 2020, or they can graduate by May 30th, 2020. And that's the class of 2020's graduation date. We're hoping to be able to hold graduation on that day, but we aren't certain that we'll have that opportunity to do it on that particular day. We are waiting to hear from the health department, the governor, and the government before we can proceed with that. So that's where we've been, and learning at home has taken off. I'm really excited to say that the first thing that we did was to make personal contact with 100% of our families. And by March 23rd, 100% of our families had been contacted, and we've learned what resources were needed in terms of whether families needed Chromebooks or if they needed information about how to get connected to Wi-Fi. We've deployed over 200 Chromebooks to students, and we've set up a tech support service. It has its limitations given the stay-at-home order, but we are able to respond within 48 to 72 hours, any request for a Chromebook or any repairs or equipment that is needed to go with that. Teachers have led a valiant effort to transfer learning from the face-to-face to learning online using video conferencing and office hours. That I'm happy to say that the same curricular resources we've used all year, our teachers have been able to utilize those so students aren't getting a diluted or watered down version of what they were doing this year. Of course, nothing replaces face-to-face, but given the circumstances, and I'm sure all of us would want it to be different, but given the circumstances, we're doing a great job of connecting everyone. Students with IEPs are still provided their weekly services, and IEP meetings are continuing via video conferences and phone conferences. Counselors have been available for social emotional support, and one-on-one college counseling is still taking place. I'm really excited to share with you that even our alumni, we've been able to support them, provide them with emergency support, as many of them have had to move away from school and back home and continue their studies online. They're getting support from us as well. And last but not least, our parent liaison, Mr. Butler, is connecting with families every day and sharing resources from throughout the community, including food drives, job fairs, and medical support. So all of that information is being managed on our side of this crisis. As far as our results, I'm happy to say, like I said before, we've been in touch with 100% of our families. Teachers are making contact with families each day to keep parents apprised of how students are progressing in this new environment. Students are earning credit in all of their scheduled classes. 60% of our students at each grade level are engaging. There are, and this is where I need everyone's help, there are 4 freshmen, 5 sophomores, 9 juniors, and 8 seniors who we have not checked in, who have not checked into the learning platform at all. We are working our network to find out where they are, make sure that they're safe, and to get devices into their hands so that they can continue learning as well. This may not surprise many parents out there, but there are 96 students who borrowed a Chromebook, but they're spending a lot of time on Netflix and YouTube. They haven't submitted any work yet. We can see how students are using their time, using the Go Guardian application that we shared with you last weekend. So we can see what they're doing, and a lot of students are working very, very hard. Many of our students, however, are engaging in other things besides learning. So it's really, we need parents to supervise what students are doing on their Chromebooks, and whether or not they're going to bed at night. We've got a lot of students who are up until 4 o'clock in the morning, so they're not awake for office hours when office hours roll around the next morning. We do know that in this crisis in our city, many of our students are being pulled into work a lot. And we're working with those students to help them balance work and school. And as I said before, alumni are receiving support from us while they're continuing their learning. I hope by now everyone has had an opportunity to go on the website and see how to actually navigate into the learning environment. You can go into the HFCA webpage, follow the learning, the COVID announcement, into the learning space, and then find your weekly assignments by grade level posted there. I think that does it for our update so far. I want to, before we go into some of the features of the learning platform, I know that there were some questions about whether or not, whether or not students are going to be able to be promoted to the next grade.
I'm not understanding this.
And that is absolutely going to happen if students engage in the learning and submit the work from week. They will receive the credit and they will graduate. Okay. At this time, I'd like for Mr. Smith to take over to talk about some of the questions and that have come up and provide answers to many of those questions.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Ms. Parker. I just want to thank all the parents, staff members, and students who have taken the time to be here. I think it says a lot about our community, not just the response that we've had to online learning, but the presence that we have here tonight. So I just wanted to call that out. So before we go over some of the questions that have been submitted, just to reiterate what Ms. Parker said at the start of the meeting for people who might have joined a couple minutes late, if you have questions, please add them in the chat box that you can see next to your own picture in the top right part of the screen. And for people who called in over the phone, if you'll just hold your questions until the end, we can go over them and hear from you as kind of the last part of that. So the first question, what are the learning supports for students with IEPs? Teachers are making contact with their students and families daily, offering support through assignments, checking in on their well-being, any access issues that they're having. So I'm really pleased to report that our teachers are providing a very, very high level of support to students with IEPs. Next, will my child have to attend school in the summer? While a decision has not been made by the government if schools will reopen by summer, the most important part is that students who engage now and make progress in each of their classes week by week will not have to attend any additional school past June 11th. We have done a really great job, administration and teachers, of setting this up so that there's tangible, meaningful assignments for students to do each week. I give so much credit to our teachers for that really hard work to get this started. So that is our plan, that if students who engage now and make progress in each of their classes, that they will not be required to attend school in the summer. But a decision has not been made by the government if schools will even reopen by the summer. Next question. What if my child has a learning disability and is struggling to learn even with teacher supports and office hours? Yes, our teachers are still offering office hours digitally. Way to go, teachers. Thank you. So as the need arises, a student's IEP team will meet to make any necessary adjustments to students' individual education plans to include more appropriate accommodations or modifications. If you have a specific concern about your student and their individualized education plan, please don't hesitate to reach out to Ms. Parker and myself to kind of start that conversation, or with your child's case manager. The next two frequently asked questions, I'm going to go over to Ms. Muse because they relate directly to seniors, and she's been in extensive contact with that group of students. Ms. Muse, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Good evening, everybody. So the biggest question, and I know that Ms. Parker talked about it a little bit in her opening, but the biggest question that we've been getting from seniors and parents is graduation canceled? So at this point, no, graduation is not canceled. It may be postponed after May 30th if we are still not able to hold gatherings that large because of the social distancing mandates by the government. We will hold graduation in the summer whenever the restrictions on the gatherings are lifted. The plan is to have graduation at the same venue that we have had it at in years past. However, if we are not able to, we have to reschedule, we may have to hold it somewhere else, depending on their availability for the date. But more details about that will come as we learn more about what is going on. Another big question is, are we still expected to pay senior fees? So senior fees will be adjusted to include only the items that will actually happen. People who have paid fees will receive a refund for any events that are not held. We are still planning to hold the senior banquet, decision day, and graduation, but are not certain of the dates yet. Students will still need their caps and gowns, and transcripts are still being processed to colleges. So those fees will have to be paid. So the specific numbers will be shared once we are able to determine the events that will be happening versus the events that will not be happening. Back to you, Smith.
Hey, thanks, Ms. Muse. I appreciate it. Just want to say one last reminder that parents who are on this call, please don't hesitate to drop your questions inside the chat box. Yes, thank you so much. We'll get to your question in a moment, Sam. I hope you can read that before I finish. So the question is, how can I check on my child's academic progress? Your students' pride leaders will be reaching out to you if they have not already, but to my understanding, that process has already started. So pride leaders will be reaching out to you each week to update you on your students' progress. Everybody within our school community has access to look at academic progress in all classes. So there isn't a worry about, well, I'm the English teacher, how do I know about the progress in math class? We've set up a system so that all teachers and staff are able to see academic progress in all classes. So your child pride leader will be contacting you each week to give you an update on their progress. Additionally, you can check the Summit Learning Platform in Google Classroom where the learning is actually happening to check on your students' progress. And I know Ms. Parker is going to go over the assignment list document that we're posting each week for students, so that'll be really, really clear in a second if you still have questions about that. Our next question, what will happen if students do no work right now or during the emergency closure? This is a really, really great question, okay? Our mission is important, and students need to be prepared for the next level. We will offer an extended school year to students who have not passed their courses and earn credit by June 11th. And the question in the chat box is, if we haven't paid the student fees in full, should we pay the balance?
So what I've been communicating with students and parents that I have talked to is that at this point, I would hold off on that because, well, first off, nobody's at the school to receive the payment, but because we want to make sure that we have a total number for you, and then that being an accurate number. So I would hold off right now. I've told students and parents, like, put that aside so you have it. But at this point in time, we aren't taking payments. Thanks,
Ms. Muse, and thanks to the parent who asked the question. Appreciate it. If parents who have any additional questions at this time, please slide them into the chat box. Alternatively, if you need to take a minute and you haven't thought of your question yet, that's totally fine. You can slide it in there, and if anything comes up, we can revisit it. I also want to invite anyone who is not able to access the chat feature to go ahead and ask your question verbally at this time. Thanks for your question. The question on the floor right now is, do we know how the next school year will be affected?
I'll say that we don't know, because we don't know when this entire crisis is going to be over. But our plan is to start school the Tuesday after Labor Day. That's for returning students. Freshman Bridge will be held the week before that. None of that is going to be any different. And our hope is that we'll be able to get everyone learning online now, presently, so that, and doing great work and learning a lot, so that everyone can be done at the planned end of the school year. If you are a parent or you know of a family that is not logged in and learning with us right now because they don't have Wi-Fi or because they didn't pick up their Chromebook in time, or they just don't understand how all of this works, please reach out to me personally, j.parker@howardfullerca.org, or reach out to the Pride leaders that have been reaching out to you. If your email address is changed or your home address is changed, and because if you haven't received any communication from us, that means we don't have your correct address. So make sure that you click on the link that's going to be available to you after this to let us know how to reach you so that we can help. We are very committed to making sure that our kids are learning right now, and any obstacle that families are experiencing to learning, we want to help remove. But please let us know what those are so that we can do that with you.
Thanks, Ms. Parker, and thanks to the parents and members of the community who are submitting questions. The next question is, how does COVID-19 affect the opening of the new school? And their second question is, what other enrichment services will the school offer potentially from May to August?
I'm going to ask Dr. Fuller to take the question about the new school, and then I will address the summer opportunities. So maybe I'll start with the summer opportunities, and Dr. Fuller will chime in a second.
No, I'm sorry. I'm ready. I was on mute.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's okay.
But I was really good. Sorry y'all didn't hear it. So, no, I really want to just thank everyone who taken the time to be on with us this evening. You know, the parents, the staff, the students. And I just want to express my appreciation to Ms. Parker and all of the staff for the work that you're doing to try to make sure that learning continues for our students. I've been on a lot of calls and a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of video chats nationally. And I would say that what we're doing and where we are at this point in time is very far from where a lot of schools are, particularly those who had no experience whatsoever dealing with online learning. So I just want to, again, thank the staff for their hard work. To answer the question, we are continuing to pursue a new building. I'm really worried, obviously, about the economic impact. And what I mean by that, in order to get that new building, we have to raise money. And there are two ways that we're talking about raising money. One is for people to give us gifts or contributions. And the second one, of course, is looking at things like new market tax credits and all of that. Both of these things, and also loans from banks, both of these, or all three of these, will be impacted by the economic condition of the country. So we're not clear where we're going to be relative to trying to get the money that we need from those three sources. But I do want everyone to know that we do plan on continuing to pursue trying to have a new building for our school, and whenever school reopens. A lot of stuff is actually obviously going to be pushed back. It may take a little bit longer than we thought, but we want you to know that we are continuing to pursue that. And thanks very much for that question.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
done.
You're on mute now.
In terms of the summer programs, we do two things in the summer. Typically, we have an extended summer where students who didn't finish their academic requirements over the course of the year are able to finish up. And then there are students who participate in early college experiences. Ms. Muse, did you want to talk about the early college experiences?
I can. So we have had a number of students who have signed up. So as of now, we haven't heard of anything being officially canceled because we're still waiting, you know, with everything that's going on in the world. So as we find out information, we'll make sure that we share that with Scholar and you, of course. But we will continue to push them to experience that opportunity if it is available for them. So we're hoping that it's available. That's our hope.
It's also our hope that everyone will be learning right now and getting the help that they need by going to office hours so that they do not have to attend an extended summer program. As you may recall, we were not planning on having summer school this year because we were anticipating moving into the new building. We're hoping that it won't be necessary because everyone will engage over the next few weeks. And hopefully, if we're able to return to school, we can finish up the year together. But if it is necessary, because people could not complete what they started this semester, or if we need to provide compensatory services for students with diagnosed learning disabilities, we are certainly planning on doing that. Each week, we're monitoring how many students are connected to their classes and submitting work so that we can make a fair projection of how many students we'll need to support over the summer. More information will be available in May about extended summer, and only those families that, for whatever reason, have not been able to get their kids to do right will be affected. But like I said, the teachers are doing an incredible, incredible job working with students every day so that extended summer should not be necessary, but if it is, we certainly will host it.
Great. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions, and thanks to the couple of parents who gave us that great piece of feedback around the communication with families, and around the staff keeping parents up to date and informed on the three. You know, it's an interesting kind of dynamic where now we're communicating with parents and students digitally, so or over the phone. And again, I just want to echo Ms. Parker's thanks and compliments to our teaching staff who have done just such an incredible job. At this time, if I'll just kind of wait another second to see if there's any other questions that are generated.
There's another one.
Oh yeah, sorry. There was one about standardized testing.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that standardized testing for 9th and 10th grade has been waived or suspended by DPI, Department of Public Instruction. ACT has let us know that they're hoping to resume testing in June and July, but there won't be any testing before then.
Yeah, so if you are on the call and you have a junior, a current junior in high school, the test date that would be hoping to get them registered would be June 13th, if you want to mark your calendar for that. But it'd be that Saturday, June 13th.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You know, I just wanted to make sure that we add our thanks to the parents out there. You know, we are tremendously thankful for what our staff is doing, but I think it's critical that we let all of the parents know how much we appreciate the fact that you all are taking this on with everything else that you have to do out there. And we're grateful as a school to have parents like you all. And we hope that you will encourage other parents to to try to do the same. We know that this is exceedingly difficult on you. And so we just want you to know that we're very thankful.
I saw a question from Ms. Britt about additional pre-testing for the ACT. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. So if you could type a clarifying statement or question so I can answer your question specifically. But if what you're asking, if there's an opportunity for students to do ACT practice, absolutely. They have access to ACT prep services that they've gone through with their prior teachers, and so they can use those there. Did I answer your question, Ms. Britt, about the test prep that they can use? Okay, fantastic, great. So would everyone say that they're clear on how students get their assignments every day or every week? That's fantastic, yay. See, we had a whole slide prepared to show you how to access, but you know how to access, that's awesome. Any students who are out there who still aren't clear, email your teachers. They will be happy to walk you through it. It's all on the website. So if you go to the website and it says online learning, well, go ahead, show the slide, yes. So it says at home distance learning information, that yellow box, you click on that and then you will go into another page that'll take you to the classroom assignments by grade. You click on get started and what will come up is an assignment sheet for the week. And you can see what's due that week, office hours or links to the office hour schedule. And you can prepare your week ahead of time. So everyone has a scheduling activity that we've sent out to them. And the purpose of that is what we know about working from home. And there's a whole bunch of careers that do this now. Structure is the key. And so we've asked students to create a weekly schedule that shows this is where I'm going to learn, this is where I'm going to play, this is where I'm going to do chores, this is where I'm going to go to work, because we are preparing them for college and career, and they may have a career in the future where they need to work from home. They may go to a college where they may need to work online. Certainly might be in the situation where they're working from home the next snow day and we say, okay, it's virtual learning day. It's important to structure your day so that it doesn't get away from you. So parents, you can help show them your tricks in staying organized and organizing your day by helping them create those schedules each week and following along with those assignments. Teachers offer, you're welcome. Teachers offer office hours twice a week. So there are opportunities to meet with teachers in video conferences to get even more specific support. Mr. Smith, did you want to cover that question?
I'm sorry,
Ms. Kelly just said.
Yeah, sure, thank you, I'm sorry. Yeah, so to follow up for any junior parents who are concerned, Ms. Kelly has shared that students can go to actacademy.act.org using their school email and practice questions for specific ACT subtests. Just so any junior parents on the call are made aware, I made a note over here on my desk to ask all the junior Pride leaders to share ACT prep information with their students if they've not done so already.
All right, so if there aren't any more questions, I think we can get to the vote. And essentially, like I said, this comes from the Department of Public Instruction, DPI, for us to be able to say that this type of learning counts towards students earning credit and students earning their diplomas. we have to all agree, have come to a consensus as a community that it's okay to waive the number of hours we would typically be required to learn in school. So if there's anyone who opposes us waiving the requirement, in other words, you don't want us to waive the requirement, which means we could not learn online and have that count towards credit attainment and graduation, speak now. Is anyone opposed to us waiving the hour requirement? So because no one has opposed the waiving of the hour requirement, I will communicate with DPI that as a community, we've come to a consensus to waive the hour requirement in the midst of this COVID-19 public health emergency. And as a result, all of the learning that we do between now and the scheduled end of the school year will count toward credit attainment and graduation. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support and for loving on your children and making sure that their learning continues at this time. We did want to share this hotline for people. There's so many members of our school community that are being impacted by this health crisis. And so we wanted to share the hotline that Frederick and the Medical College of Wisconsin announced today for people without a primary care physician, because apparently testing is tied to doctor's orders from a primary care physician. So if you don't have, or if someone you know doesn't have a primary care physician, but needs to get tested, they can call this hotline and get connected to a test. So please pass that number along. It'll be posted on our website. Also, at the end of this, if you could please give us feedback. And if you aren't connected with the Remind app, please sign up for that app by providing us with your email address. And again, provide us with feedback on this meeting. If you've thought of any questions that you forgot to ask, you can ask those in that link, and we will get back to you personally about the answers to your questions. Was there anyone who wanted to ask any questions out loud? Who's on the phone, maybe? Thank you, Ms. Britt. That's really nice of you. Thank you. Were there any students who had any questions? I want to see everyone's faces. All the students put the screen up. We couldn't see their faces. I need to see you guys. I miss you. This was Facebook. You'd be all live up in here. All right. Well, if that is our meeting, then thank you so much for attending this evening. We'll have another update in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for another community gathering as more information becomes aware, as we become aware of more information, and if there's any news about whether or not we are going to be able to come back together as a family soon. And let's hope. Stay safe, stay at home, and let's stay connected. Love everybody. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.